I got involved with 18th century fashion because I was requested to make one dress. And I had to do so much research, and I found out what a fascinating century that it was. It's sort of funny to our standards today to be all about deportment and grace and looking beautiful all day long. And it's sort of fantasy. I don't expect it to ever come around to that again. So we look at what's left, and all we have are the remnants. The chemise with the basic undergarment, and from there would be the corset, and on top of that would be a petticoat, which would be considered an under petticoat. Then a top petticoat, just known as the petticoat, which is the one for display. We're a t-shirt generation. We throw on the t-shirt and go, that's fine. They spend a lot of time making sure they look their best. They put their wealth on their body to let you know that this is what they had. And of course, there's certain society today that does that as well, but not to the overall amount that it was done in the 18th century. On top of that would be a robe, or they might have a casual jacket that would be considered at home today that you might not wear out before they started changing into something to go out, which would have more strength, such as a silk brocade, or a tailored jacket, or a wool jacket if they're going to go riding. Fashion was so important that they made dolls with the current fashions that went from France around the rest of the world. And even when there was a war, they even let the dolls through. That's the importance of fashion. They would let these fashion dolls go through to another city, promoting the fashion of the period. And as it evolved later in the 18th century, that everything had its name. Every new hat, every new style was given a name. It was frivolous. There's no doubt it was frivolous. Imagine how frivolous it was to the person who didn't have that money. It was power dressing, and you could recognize who a person was by what they wore.
The costume itself is heavy, but I don't feel like it's restricting. When I try and sit down, I really have to make sure where I'm going. But other than that, it's pretty comfortable. It's just a little heavier maybe a lot heavier than what we're used to.
You have to totally focus in on what you're doing. I play music of the period while I'm making the patterns, and you have to be constantly on guard because you start going into contemporary fittings like the seaming in the back, and knowing that shape or design fitted with a certain garment, you just have to be totally focused to make it correct. There are some costumes you just make if you want to make a costume, but that's not my way. I like my costumes to look like they just came out of somebody's closet rather than being made as a costume. I just wanted them to take away the fact that you can look at something beautiful. You don't have to wear it yourself. You can look at that fantasy and enjoy it for a moment and leave here smiling. It was just a moment, and you didn't have to wear it, but it looked good, and you had fun. And it was like a little bit of history with a smile. I mean, a lot of times it's all very serious, but it doesn't have to be. And I find if people laugh at history, they can remember what you were talking about at that time, because it was learned with laughter. But I think to give someone that happiness of looking at fantasy clothes and how beautiful it was, and you can enjoy it. for those few moments.